What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Resident Evil Resistance video. Now, today's video was going to be three different videos. I had three different options for a video today. Video one was going to be ranking the characters from best to worst, or a tier list, and perhaps saying who's the best character in my opinion to the worst character in my opinion, and the most broken character in the game. Yes, she's still the most broken character in the game in my opinion, but that's a different topic or a different video for another time. I just felt though I was talking for at least 45 minutes to an hour and it felt like a very long video, so I said I wasn't gonna go through with it. But that was option one. Option two was actually giving you another Sam build, which I still haven't finished because there's a lot of different unique things going on with Sam. So we're going option three for this video, which is actually going over every single ability that Sam has in its entirety. And you might find something interesting about these abilities. It's going to be a little short video, not too long, because like I said, I do want to go ahead and get that Sam video out and test more things, because a lot of different pieces of equipment are just not good. Just don't feel like they're useful on Sam. So I just think right now the best builds he have are his old builds. Like, trying to figure out something new for Sam, it's really hard because he doesn't have a lot of great things going for him. That's why we're going to talk about his abilities. First, we're going to start off with his Fist of Iron's Fever skill. Of course, there are three abilities now. Brute Force, which is greatly increases damage dealt by Fist of Irons and triggers finishes easier, extending skill duration by 3 seconds per creature kill. Base cooldown is 120 seconds. Now, when we talk about Brute Force, that greatly increases damage dealt by Fist of Irons. Sorry if I say words differently because I am a little country. Don't talk about that. But Fist of Iron, that greatly isn't a flat number, it's a percentage number, and that it really doesn't even give you a lot of extra damage. I've tested this without equipment, I tested it with equipment, and that damage output feels weaker than it used to be. Like Brute Force, this was one of the best abilities in the game because the damage output was so high. I mean, I can get 1300 with a dash punch connected with it without doing much or putting much pieces of equipment with it. I just feel as though it did get nerfed in a sense, and I don't know if they put it in patch notes because I haven't looked at patch notes recently, but the damage output isn't really too much higher. Now, I do want to say that the trigger finishes easier part is what makes this ability so great, because finishers are kind of hard to hit, but when you do have this Brute Force ability on, not only with your Fist of Irons active, I just feel as though that triggering finishers or trying to do a finisher on a zombie is way easier with this ability alone. Extends the skill duration by 3 seconds per creature kill. That is really huge against like high hordes of zombies. Somebody's constantly putting out zombie after zombie after zombie, or trying to fill a room up as quickly as possible. Basically, horde builds or spam builds, they really suck against Brute Force, because every time a creature dies or I kill it, I'm getting extended seconds, extended time, and my Fist of Irons will never go away. So you're basically just feeding me more time on my finisher, getting more finishers, getting more creature kills, and just giving me more time in its entirety. So that's really great. So there's basically like three different passives you have in one ability. And that's one thing I do talk about a lot of my videos, having a lot of utility. Abilities that have a lot of utility is really great. For instance, if we go back to another character, Valerie, this counterattack, why it's so good, it has three different abilities or three different passives in one. That's what makes it so great. So Brute Force is still really good in my opinion. But we're gonna move on to the next ability, Immortal. This has been nerfed, and the people say that the potency of the healing is not that great. I still do think that it really is great, because you're constantly regenerating HP, and gets to a point where as long as it's active, if you get bit by a zombie, you're not gonna go down, because your HP is going above that threshold to not get knocked, if it makes sense. Because if you get bit by a zombie, of course there is a limit to where your health can drop, and you will go get knocked completely, and it'll just finish the rest of your health. With this ability active, it counteracts that time to get knocked, if it makes sense, because it takes a couple seconds for the zombie to bite you, then drop you. So if you constantly get an HP I think it's every half second, I'm not entirely for sure, but I think it's every half second you get like 50 health. So a total of 100 health every second. It takes about 2 to 3 seconds for the zombie to bite you. That's basically about 300 health threshold that you get, so you're not going to get knocked. And I mean, of course it does subtract time, which is a huge waster in this game, and that's one thing that Sam really sucks when it comes to, is getting grabbed. Jill can counteract grabs, Tyrone can counteract grabs, Valerie, everybody has a way, well, most characters have a way to not get grabbed. Even Martin, he can just place the trap right under him and just lay waste under it, just in case the zombie wants to try to grab him or try to attack him. He can just stand next to it, especially if it's a shock mine, and it's gonna shock everybody. So basically Martin's essentially safe in an instance as well, but most characters have a way to keep themselves safe, except for like Sam, Becca, and I want to say Jan, but essentially everybody else is pretty much safe. Now this creates that threshold to make Sam a little safer from getting knocked, but you still waste that time. Now we're going to move on to technique. Greatly increases the chance of critical hits during Fist of Irons. Each creature hit further raises the critical hit rate. Now when we talk about technique, because I want to actually talk about the new ability a little more in depth than I did talk about these other two, technique is actually pretty good. One thing I did find out about using technique versus the other two abilities, that it has a 50% increase on attack speed when you have your Fist of Irons active. Yes, so if you have Fist of Irons technique and you use it versus brute force or immortal, your fist actually attack, I want to say 50% faster, but it's not exactly twice as fast, but I want to say it's about 50%. I can't really give a number on it, but it's way faster than the other two, and greatly increases the chance of letting the critical hit. So that means you basically get a free piece of crit equipment just for having a ability active. Now when your Fist of Irons go away, then that crit that you did stack, because each creature hit does further raises the critical hit rate. Those stacks go away, and then you have to restack it when you activate your ability. Now I did find out that using this ability, that sometimes when you hit a zombie, sorry for the pause, but sometimes you hit a zombie and it doesn't give you the stack. It's saying in the ability each creature hit further raises your critical hit rate. So that means if you were to do the 3-hit combo on a zombie, you essentially think you would get 3 stacks. No, wrong. Sometimes you even get 1 stack, or sometimes you get 2 stacks. It's very iffy that you don't even get every stack with every hit. I don't like that, because essentially it's a game of chance. I think you can only get a certain amount of stacks within a couple seconds or so, because I found that as I pause, go back to the zombie, pause, and go back to the zombie, I get every single stack that I was promised. But if I would just go for a 3-hit combo or just keep punching with a flurry of punches relentlessly, I don't get every stack I was promised. So take that with a grain of salt, that this ability does work, but it doesn't have everything in a nutshell. So ranking these 3 abilities, I do think technique is really great compared to the others, who only because not of the critical hit rate, but the fact that you have way faster attack speed. And that's one thing I did stress that Sam needed with his fist. Like, his fist does mediocre damage. It does the same amount of damage as any other character using a melee attack, or just a little bit more, if that makes sense. So Sam's fists are not something special. His damage output is still mediocre, and it's not super great compared to everybody else. It's just a little more extra damage. But that faster attack speed is something that Sam has always needed on any of his abilities. Now, if Immortal and Brute Force had that extra attack speed that Technique does have, then Brute Force would still be the better option, only because it has way more utility in it, and the utility in it is more viable than getting stacks every couple seconds, or having to restack it, because you just get that flat damage no matter what goes on. Versus also with Immortal, you get that flat health no matter what goes on. This, you have to keep constantly stacking to get the extra critical hit rate. That's the only reason I'm rating this higher than the other two. So Technique would probably be the best one right now out of the three, and then go Brute Force, and then I would go to the Immortal, only if you need like a tank or something. Not saying this is not viable. All three of these abilities are still very, very viable in my opinion, but I just think having that extra attack speed is really great. Now we're going to move on to Dash Punch, and we're going to talk about all three of the abilities in a nutshell. Relentless temporarily increases damage dealt after hitting creatures and bioweapons. Cooldown is 5 seconds. Now, everybody know that Sam's Dash Punch used to be on a 2-second cooldown. Now it's on a 5-second cooldown straight across the board. All three of his Dash Punches, or three different variations of his Dash Punch, is on a 5-second cooldown. Now, the reason why Relentless sucked in the past is because, of course, Recovery always had that potency HP, and you get to cure your infection, which was really great. Keep you from coughing, give you health back. You didn't have to waste herbs all the time. Now, Relentless still had its uses, giving you increased damage dealt after hitting something, but this is where Relentless falls off. It used to be a 2-second cooldown. Now this is 5 seconds. Relentless only lasts for 5 seconds, meaning you're not able to constantly stack their Relentless like you used to. Would it been on a 2-second cooldown, I have a 2.5 seconds of pause or period where I can use Dash Punch again, reset Relentless, and keep my damage increase output. So that means my damage output would never go away if I can constantly stack it. That's what made Relentless great. But now that it's on a 5-second cooldown, you're constantly losing this ability in its entirety, making it really, really not great in my opinion. Now, if they increase the duration of Relentless, making it above the 5-second threshold to maybe like 7 to 10 seconds, giving it a longer period that you have that increased damage, then it would be great. But until then, that Relentless is just not great, and it's basically the worst out of the three. Still has its uses. Of course, hitting a bioweapon or creature gives you at least some type of increased damage. If you want to do fist, hit them with a fist, and then you can go for a melee weapon swing afterwards to get a little combo going, because you do Dash Punch, you get a little stun off, and then you can go ahead and have at the zombie with the increased damage. But that's about it. It used to be really great at first, but now it's just piss poor. Recovery. Now, Recovery did get nerfed a lot. Temporarily regains health and heals infection after hitting creatures and bioweapons. This used to completely heal one tier of infection, give enough health back to where you didn't have to worry about anything, and then it was on a 2-second cooldown, so that means you can constantly just walk back dash, and just completely heal yourself without doing anything at all, or any effort at all. I do think that Sam's Dash Punch should be more like how Tyrone abilities are. His Barrage, Pumped Up, and Psychic have different variations and different cooldown timers depending on the aspect of it. That's one thing that I did stress about Sam, that doesn't make him really great compared to other characters like Valerie. Her Remedy is 150 seconds, Spray Gun is only 120, and you see what I mean? Like, the cooldown timers on some people's abilities change drastically depending on how strong they are. 60 seconds versus 30 seconds. Sam, all of his abilities have the flat timer straight across the board, which makes him balanced in a way. Other characters are imbalanced because their timers are very drastically different, especially Tyrone's kick, which can nullify anything. Any of these versions of kick can nullify anything. So I can just take pumped up if I want to constant kick something. I can take barrage if I want to open up doors more often, or I can just take sidekick if I want to deal a drastically damaging kick. But it costs more to get something even better. Unlike Sam, where if I would have been fine if Relentless was on a 2-second cooldown, making it more stronger, having recovery on a 5-second cooldown because you get the potency of the heals and everything, and reverted its healing and its infection cure back to its original state, and have speed loader on something like a 7-second cooldown. Makes sense? I don't think that everything should have got nerfed just according to one thing, if that made any type of sense whatsoever. Now we're gonna move on to, no, I think I was still talking about recovery. Okay, so I did talk about the health and I did talk about the curing aspect. I got kind of lost, so just bear with me, guys. The 5 seconds, yeah, so it did get nerfed to, I think the regen and health, the regening health and the infection cure only lasts for like 3.5 seconds to 4 seconds, meaning you don't even get the amount of HP back anymore. So I think that leaving this on a shorter cooldown, both of these abilities on a shorter cooldown, not even 2 seconds, maybe like I said, 2 seconds for here, 3 to 4 seconds for here, maybe 5 seconds for here for 6 seconds, something that outweighs that cost, because 5 seconds is a very, very long time, especially for Sam, who's supposed to be able to use his fist whenever, because it gives him the ability to not just use weapons. Like, his fist is his strength, and in a sense, because Tyrone has his kick, that's his strength. Now we're going to talk about speed loader, because I kind of got lost and I forgot what I was going to say, so I just kind of mumbled a little bit and rambled. Speed loader, equipped firearm reloads automatically after hitting creatures and bioweapons, greatly increases chance of critical hits for a set duration. Like I said, this set duration only lasts for 5 seconds, with the cooldown being 5 seconds. This is the only kind of fair one in my opinion. Not because of the reload automatically after hitting creatures and bioweapons, because that really does suck. Sam is not even a character who really uses firearms often. You can still use them and it'll still be viable, especially like something like the shotgun, because the shotgun does take time to reload. Now that you can hit a dash punch and get the reload animation to just be completely wiped is a great thing, especially if you want to go shotgun Sam. But that's not what makes this ability really, really great. The thing that makes this ability really great is the increased critical hit rate for a set duration. Everybody has some type of way of having increased critical rate. Martin has reinforced. Valerie, she doesn't really have an increased critical rate, but she has an increased damage rate. Jan, she just has extra damage by buying special weapons. Tyrone has a critical rate when knocking people on the ground. Becca has critical rate everywhere, so it doesn't even matter. Jill, critical rate, if that makes sense. So Sam finally now has a way to get a better sense of an increased damage without having to do much at all but get a dash punch. But also, even with his dash punch, it's super risky trying to go for a dash punch, because every zombie now has a higher potency or a higher tendency to grab survivors. Meaning grabs actually outweigh Sam's dash punch or any type of attacks. If a zombie is in the in the grab animation, it would always take priority. So Masterminds kind of noticed now. And especially with Sam going to his new ability, Unstoppable, most people are going to just expect Sam to have Unstoppable, so why not just grab him? You know, especially if I'm playing Daniel, why not just grab it? I can have my version of Unstoppable, which is, I don't know the name of his ability, I haven't played in a while, but basically makes Daniel unstoppable as well. So I could just grab all Sam's, subtract 15 seconds, and just be done with it. So it's super risky, and that's one thing that made his dash punch kind of a little fair, in my opinion. He has been getting quite the nerfs over a period of time, which maybe 1 or 2 nerfs were needed and necessary, but all of the nerfs he's been getting have not been necessary. So out of the 3, I would say right now Speed Loader is probably one of the best, followed by Recovery and then Relentless. Now we're going to move on to his Brawler skill variant, and then we're going to move on to Adrenaline. Now when we go to Brawler, he has 3 different variations. Focus, which greatly increases damage dealt to nearby creatures, traps, bioweapons, and biocores. He also has Blunt Force, which greatly increases melee weapon damage but accelerates depletion, and he has Unstoppable. Cannot be knocked back by most attacks when using fist or melee weapons. Now we're going to start off with Focus. Focus is very, very, very strange. The greatly increased damage dealt by nearby creatures, traps, bioweapons, and biocores. I don't think it's a flat number, and that's where it confuses me. I think it's a percentage number, and the lower your damage output, the lower the percent amount that you'll get back, if that makes sense. I've used it and tested on different things, and that percentage output is not really great. It is a greatly, which is a high number. I want to see greatly in this game is like what, 16 or maybe 20 some percent, but you gotta think about 20% of a low number. What's 20% of 1 of 20% of 100 is actually only 20, so that means you're only getting 120, which is not good at all. 150, if you get, I just use that as an example so you see where I'm coming from. Focus only works if you have a high damage output, and only it. Blunt Force greatly increases melee weapon damage but accelerates depletion. This used to be very, very I wouldn't even say overpowered, but it used to be very, very good, because you used to get that really great high damage output, and most teams only had 1 brawler, either having Sam or having a Tyrone. They use the melee weapons, and not even half the time sometimes you just had all people who used firearms, and there wasn't a Sam or a Tyrone. So it was always so many repair kits just free, and that's what made Sam really great with this ability, because repair kits was everywhere. There wasn't many people using them because he basically was the only one on the team using it if there wasn't a Tyrone, which in most instances you would either have a Sam or a Tyrone. It just felt like you needed one or the other for the door opening power, because of course Sam and Tyrone, they do open doors faster than the girls, and I think Martin as well. And also they have a bigger hitbox, meaning they can body block bullets and everything. So it just felt like Sam and Tyrone were needed. And I want to also say Becca, because she's like Amazon. She's very, very fucking tall in this game. That's but yeah, Becca is really tall. So they did increase the acceleration depletion, meaning that it does accelerate way, way faster than it used to, which I don't know how fast it is now. At first it wasn't even noticeable that you would just get free extra damage without even noticing a depletion in melee weapon. I mean, you will see it go down faster, but it wasn't even just that noticeable because they would just die so quick and instantly. And then not only that, doing a finisher would not use up any of the depletion of a melee weapon. So basically having brute force for the trigger finish is easier actually saved you depletion process on blunt force as well. Unstoppable cannot be knocked back by most creature attacks when using fists and melee weapons, meaning any normal hits, like I said before, you're basically Daniel, and the only thing that can actually knock you down are explosions, grabs, anything of that sense. But any type of regular swings, you can just plow right through it. So if you see a mastermind trying to possess a zombie, they can't really do anything but swing at you, and you can just keep getting your attacks off. Now you still lose the health, sadly, and you kill a zombie, but like I said, most masterminds know that unstoppable is kind of a new thing that everybody's trying to push toward on Sam. So now I can just get a free 15 seconds, and at most you might just kill my zombie for 5 seconds. So I have 3 chances to get 15 seconds, and you have what? You're only going to get 5 seconds out of those 3 times. So I don't think unstoppable really is that great. It's better, trust me, it's better than Focus. Don't get me wrong, it's way better than Focus, but I think Blunt Force is still the better option just because of the damage output. And you can also stop the depletion by getting pieces of equipment. Like, don't worry about my pieces of equipment, I have been testing things out, trust me, it's not even fun. But yeah, stuff like Iron Sheet, you can stop the depletion process, and Iron Sheet doesn't even cost much. So you're saving on equipment just to still get that free damage output. Unstoppable, just like I said, just to stop grabs. I mean not stop grabs, but stop Masterminds from swinging at you. It's really great. So I would probably rank Blunt Force, Unstoppable, then have Focus, with Focus just not being great at all. Adrenaline. Now I'm gonna rush to Adrenaline because I think I have been talking for quite some time, and we're just gonna try to speed through Adrenaline. There are 3 different variations: Surge, Exhilaration, and you have Attrition. I'm actually gonna start for Attrition because, like I said in the previous video, Attrition is just not great. Attrition could have been great if they would have kept a 2-second cooldown on the dash punch, but now that it being on a 5-second cooldown, this ability is just awful because Fist of Iron cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds when a creature bioweapon is hit by dash punch, meaning you only get the 5 seconds from the initial first hit of the dash punch. You have to hit R1 on PlayStation or whatever you're using for PC or Xbox, whatever the button is, but you have to hit that button, and that first hit that connects, you get the 5-second knockdown off. Really great on a piece of paper, but in reality it's not so great because, like I said, dash punch is on the 5-second cooldown, meaning every 5 seconds you get a dash and get a 5-second cooldown off. Mind you, if you try to dash or Masterminds are going to see you trying to dash, I can just grab you. 15 seconds straight off the clock is very risky to try to even get the 5 seconds off. Versus something like Surge, because I've said Surge is probably one of the better or best abilities for Adrenaline because every enemy kill permanently reduces Fist of Iron's base cooldown by 3 seconds for a max of 30 seconds. This thing, once you get your 10 creature kills, what I wouldn't even say creature kills, it's enemy kills. So anytime an enemy dies, you get that 3-second timer knocked off to a max of 30 seconds, meaning only 10 enemy kills. I do think this works on cameras. I have not fully tested it, but I think it does work on cameras, traps, creatures, anything that's considered an enemy, because it's worded specifically. It's not even saying creatures, it's worded specifically to the enemy. So giving you that 3-second knockoff for a max of 30 seconds, getting 10, which is very easy to get in, especially in stage 1, is really great. And once it's stacked, you have it for the rest of the game. Versus Exhilaration, which I'm gonna say Exhilaration is still very, very strong, but the thing is, it falls short when it's only against creature builds. If there is creature builds, then I'm sorry, I said that wrong. If there are creature builds, then you're fine. But if you have a trap or camera builds, then you're pretty much screwed. And there is a 30% chance of getting a creature build, 30% chance of getting a trap build, 30% chance of getting a camera build, because I mean a firearm build, because those are the only 3 options that Masterminds have. So you're basically risking it for a 30% chance of getting something that you need. Meaning Exhilaration is good if you do get creature builds, and then if you pair that with brute force, getting the finishers easier, essentially you can hit finishers all day and it's not even a problem. Now, like I said, back to Surge. It's just great because you get those kills, you get that 30 seconds knocked off, and it basically brings your ability from 120 seconds to 90 seconds flat. And it's easy to stack that versus Attrition, Exhilaration. So I do think Surge right now is the best passive ability for Adrenaline, followed by Exhilaration and then Attrition, only because Attrition not only have to have those zombies and you do hit that 5 seconds by dash punching, it's also just too risky to go for a dash punch, where you can have Exhilaration and pair that with the new ability Unstoppable and just plow through zombies. So that is my take on Sam's new abilities. He didn't get a lot of really amazing abilities compared to some other characters, Like I said, Unstoppable is very great. Speedloader is kind of iffy in a nutshell, but Technique is probably the best thing he has going for him, only because of that faster attack speed. Now that will probably conclude this video. I'm probably not gonna do any gameplay at the end, sorry and sadly for you guys, but my next video will be the build or a build for Sam. I'm trying to think of something new, because like I said, the equipment, it just feels like the equipment is still pretty standard for Sam. Just go straight combat, and nothing in combat is bad. Nothing really in combat is pretty bad for a Sam. You can pretty much use almost anything and be pretty great, except for batting gloves. One thing I do stress about batting gloves, that yeah, you do get the knockback from it, but that knockback isn't what makes Sam Sam. He wants to stick to his opponent, and having your opponent fly back because of knockback is really not great. So that's gonna conclude for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and maybe you learned something, because you maybe not have known that Technique gives you the increased attack speed. You may have not known that Brute Force gave you trigger finishes easier, not only in just the Fist of Irons, but also anytime you try to go for a finisher, your finishers are triggered easier than it would before. Just, there's something that you can always learn. You may not have known that Surge not only counts for just creatures, but kills, any kill permanently reduces the Fist of Irons if it's an enemy. Like I said, I'm still testing it myself, so hey, we all learn something new every day. But if you like this video and you want to see more, you can leave a little thumbs up, and you can also subscribe to the channel. We grow every single day, and we have gained even more subscribers over the past few days. And for everybody who has subscribed, thank you so much, and welcome to the Data Army. Welcome everybody with open arms, and we're going to be doing more things in the future, like giveaways, all sorts of things. I've only done one giveaway so far, but I did say in my last video I do plan to do more giveaways, especially on upcoming games like Avengers, maybe Watch Dogs Legion, and I am also doing one for Cyberpunk 2077 if you are interested in that, because I do want to have more games on this channel, and this is probably going to be my main game away from storyline games. So if you want to check some of those out, feel free to do so. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and again, I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of you guys' day. Peace.